Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are. I am I'm Jihei, founder CEO of Sportsbox AI. I'm here with our ambassador and tour coach Dana Dahlquist, who is all ready to go. He has some exciting things to share with you all today. And then our director of sports science, Nate Ashton, and he will be also stepping up as Sportsbox tour rep, which is something that I'll talk about a little bit later on in this presentation. This webinar is kind of the culmination, or I mean, you can also think of it as a start of something new, but we've spent the last year or so working intensively with tour players. You guys probably know well that we have been working closely with Dana and Bryson. We've been part of their process for the last, 12 plus months since the US Open last year. And we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot of very interesting things about what makes a tour player perform at their best in the most consistent way possible, and the different ways in which we can use our product data to help coaches and players collaborate really well. And we wanted to start sharing some of that knowledge with you guys. I know many of you guys have been using Sportsbox for a long time, but may not know all the different little best practices in unlocking the power of what we have, and also some ways in which we don't offer directly in the app, but options for you guys to work with us closely, similar to what we've done with Dana and Bryson. So I wanted to give you all of those options here on this webinar. I probably won't get to all of it, but hopefully this is a good mix of information, also education from Dana, and and it'll open more doors for you guys to reach out to us. So let me just quickly share one little slide with you all. Why does this not pop up? Dana, where are you today?
I'm in Long Beach. I'm at El Dorado right now. I'm
Nice.
watching a player run his sequence right now, and
Nice.
he's going to be our guinea pig today. But I think it'll be good on twofold because we'll dive pretty deep into what we look for as far as basics are concerned, and then when we dig deep into what he's working on, and then how to set parameters, for his golf swing.
Awesome. Do you want to introduce us to your player really quickly?
Yeah. So, right, you're good there. I think I can flip the camera around.
Yep.
Can you see him?
Actually,
I think it's on. How's it going? Almost there. They're pulling the screen down.
How do I do this so that it doesn't take over the whole screen? Stop share. Okay, here we go.
There we go. Yeah, so this is Ray. Let me move this way. There we go. There we go. Perfect. And so yeah, you just hit balls. We'll go over this. So Ray plays right now on the Corn Ferry. He went to Oklahoma State. He's just running some maps right now. Cool. So GA, do you have something that you wanted to say first before we kind of jump into his swing?
Yeah, let me just go through the agenda, or
Okay.
just so that people have an idea what we're about to do.
Okay.
And so a case study with some of Dana's players. In this case, it's going to be Ray. You're going to dive into his swing and look at some of the numbers that you guys are working on. Second part will be Dana actually showing you guys what he would do with the player using Sportsbox. So going beyond the numbers here, this part will be, what are the different features that he uses? How does he set up goals? How does he set up the player for success when the player is out on the road and not with him in a lesson format? How do you keep that dialogue going? How do you keep that player feeling confident and consistent throughout the season using some of the features that we have? And then I'll take over and walk through like a 5-10 minute version of the Bryson case study, because it's just a really fascinating study of what we have done with a player. And And then I'll go over what we're calling the Sportsbox Tour program with Nate. And lastly, and this is something that's been highly requested by coaches and players alike, a new subscription plan that would give a player access to all the different data instead of the limited set of data that the player 3D player subscription currently offers. So that's kind of the overview of what's about to happen today. All right, Dana, take it away.
Yeah. So Ray's gonna hit some balls. I'm giving him an input, and his input, Ray, go and go to the top of your swing. And then as you start to separate, feel like your head looks back, goes back over the right, and then he's driving his right hip forward and open. We're just gonna take it, then we're gonna run an analysis of it. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to let this process.
I actually broke my attack angle.
Oh, okay. Let's have that discussion. So I'm going to flip this around, Jihei. A little bit technically inept, but and then Ray's going to come sit with me. We're going to have a powwow, and then we're going to flip this again over.
This is the most technically advanced webinar we've ever done.
Exactly.
A live lesson.
Yeah. Okay. So if I have this here, and we're going to kind of cover, because Ray's already been here for a little bit, so we kind of know what we're doing. Kind of a little bit. We're just pulling rabbits out of hats right now. Okay, so so this is basically what we would do. So with Ray, we first worked on, I'm just going to throw the lines up here to sound smart. Okay, we increased side bend. So these are kind of like some preference numbers for Ray that I would bring up, and for most students. So you'd have your turns, which are the rotationals. The sways right to left. His sway gap, which is telling me where the center of the chest versus the center of the pelvis is. And he's a tour player, so he's good. And then enough chest side bend. So he was not enough side bend originally, right? Okay. Okay. Now in his move, he would go into left bend kind of early, right? That was kind of the thing.
Yep.
And lose rotation to the right. So now from like 1 to 2 right here, this is kind of different for you. The chest is more to the right than what it would be normally.
Mm-hmm.
And his chest bend is good. So normally he would get into a bigger chest bend number.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. And then your feel is to turn more level, okay, with your lead arm more kind of up in front of you at P3. So
Hey, Dana, Ray,
yep.
what was the side bend number at P2 that like before the change?
It was like 23 degrees, and he would lose his pelvis bend. So what happens if you left bend too much, typically your pelvis bend would be flatter because you're trying to somewhat stay centered. So for him, he was kind of like very stacky, if you want to call it that. And your left arm would pull across your chest too quick, right? And so now as he winds to the top, you can see that now you have 45 degrees with the rib cage, lifts are good, extended 9 degrees, which I don't mind if that's outside of range because he's going to have a bigger turn and he's actually recentered with a nice sway gap. Now, the big one for him is separation, right?
Yes.
So with Ray, what would occur is his angle of attack would get more down. And I'm going to have him come on the back end here and describe the feel. His
Hey,
chest
Dana.
would, yep.
Dana.
Yep.
There's a request from the viewers that you turn the phone sideways so we can see the full screen because it's hard to.
There?
Yep, there we go.
Perfect.
Hard to see the numbers.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay,
Is that
so-
better, Ron? Anyway, we can keep going.
Okay, so that should get it in the thing there.
Yep.
So his error would be that his separation or X factor stretch would be low, and I didn't bring that up here because we don't really need it because I can see the pelvis to chest turn. So at P5, if I just go to P5, good job.
Yeah.
His chest turn would be more open. So now it's at 53. So at lead arm parallel, his chest is not as open and his chest is not as forward. So sometimes his chest gets over 3 inches forward. Now I still like more push through the right side to get his hips a little more forward and maybe more separation in there, but this is definitely trending. And you're maintaining some sway gap.
Yeah.
So staying negative.
Pelvis sway is the lateral movement.
Correct. Yeah. Which you can't do if your upper hub is too far forward. Yeah. So his angle of attack was getting down. Well, that's better.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I'm keeping my job, which is nice. So the pelvis is more forward here, chest more back. You can see that relationship between the chest and the pelvis, how the chest is more behind the pelvis now, where before they were still kind of stacked up. And then because his chest was too forward, the left wrist would extend and the left arm would start to bend. Now you're not.
Yeah, the left arm's way more extended.
Yeah. And then his head's more back, hips more forward, and we're getting
Spacing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have Ray kind of talk about this just a little bit. Yeah. So we'll flip this around and I'm going to have him kind of walk through the feels, what it feels like for him. Let's have you go over there actually. Okay. So what are your feels on the backswing for this?
So my backswing feels are trying to make sure my shoulders turn a lot more level as my hands tend to elevate up into the backswing.
Yep.
I used to get very kind of head going down and forward this way.
Yep.
So level turn, higher hands, and then in the downswing, it's trying to feel like my hips start to separate, head starts to go back, upper body back, left arm is externally rotated, wrist is flexed.
Yeah. So like be more like your left shoulder doesn't get forward too early and your eye line's looking more behind the right shoulder for longer, which is going to influence the separation. So let's do a couple more and then I'll film you. So this is basically how I would run lessons is I kind of do everything and then just do it in phases. So he's going to run kind of like the map of it. Yeah. So much higher. Now for him to lower the ball flight, what would be the wrong way to do it?
Would be to step forward, get my upper up. Sorry,
Yeah. So he would get upper body forward to try to lower it, left wrist would extend, and you start pulling the ball, right?
Yeah.
And then long clubs, you back out, hit it right. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna film a couple of these.
What could I do more of?
Well, okay, so right now we're doing like position orientation. The thing that you need to train is as you get here, eye line goes more to the right, right hip drives and pushes more towards the target with the left hip pushing away. The left hip pushing away through the ball of your left foot. Yeah, that way. Just more and more of that stimulus.
By the way, yes, there will be a recording of this on YouTube. So, and Dana, as you're going through, if you don't mind just elaborating a little bit on what the terminology you're using, like so like side bends and bends,
Sure. Yeah.
that would be helpful as well.
Sure.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, same thing, a little less left bend. Yep. Very good. Fabulous. Fabulous. What was angle of attack on that one?
5.
Okay.
Just about 2.6 better. 2.5 degrees better.
Cool. Okay, so what we'll do here, I'm just going to pull this to the top and then I'm going to okay, that's perfect. Okay, we're going to go back over the numbers, but so basically, I'll run through this a little bit. So with Ray, so we have the sway gap being this orientation being a little bit more to the right with a little bit of tilt, so about 11 to 12 degrees. Backswing keeping forward bend, longer feeling with less left bend, and then the left bend being this tilt. Okay, not getting too much of that because if he left bends too early, he loses rotation to the rib cage to the right, and then he only extends, and then both hubs, upper hub, lower hub, get too stacked, and then it's too far forward. So when players do that, the only thing they can do is to push laterally to reestablish that tilt, which inevitably can get rid of some of the rotation of the lower body. So that's kind of the issue. So with him, and we can go look at this last one because it was really, really good. Let me bring this around. Okay, let's have a seat again. And you'll see this like at the top. Hopefully. There we go. Okay, so stay. Okay. So this is him at the top now. So at the top of his swing, right? Pelvis sways at 0.
So
Chest.
this was the last swing that he took.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So, I mean, phenomenal. I mean, it's perfect. And then you lower more. So when I see red numbers, I'm not necessarily too like concerned if they're in the realm of what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So he doesn't normally get there. So now through the transition. Wow. Okay. So that's different. 52 degrees close of the rib cage, pelvis is forward, chest is now behind the pelvis.
What was his chest turn P5 before?
My goodness. Yeah, it was like 40. Yeah, he was
Okay,
already.
which means that he was too open at that position.
Yeah.
Too close to 0.
Yeah. So like his left arm would get more out, his right arm would get more back, elbow separation, internal rotation of the trail shoulder, and then left wrist would start kicking into extension. Yeah. Yeah. So then through here, I mean, if you like green.
Yeah. The right arm's against the rib cage.
Much better. Your eye line's better. Good you.
Yeah. I mean, the left arm is way more extended.
Yeah. Left leg's extending, right hip's internally rotating, head's more back, arms are more extended.
Yeah.
Cool.
So for Ray, what was there a drill or what was the input that you guys used to get these numbers to improve?
Well, say first off is like we did it actually on chipping first, like kind of pitch shots because it was showing up in the short motion as much as the full motion. So doing kind of like off speed, slow motion, exaggerated on the other side of it feels. And then because the left wrist was like the low hanging fruit, the ball would go in the air.
Mhm.
Right. So I can have Ray kind of demonstrate it actually because it'll be good. Okay. So go ahead and take your setup. So
Okay, Craig has requested that we do like a before the comparison mode to
Sure.
see if we can look at the numbers side by side.
We can do that. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead and do your setup. So like these are kind of the feels. So I'll move this closer. All right. So the first thing was kind of show us like the wrong. Good. So that's exaggerated. So you can see like it's a fake turn because he's just kind of extending and left bending. So yep. And then the right elbow is like higher than the left. Yeah, like that. So you can see the light through the right arm. So now the feel going slow is forward bend, turn. See how the right elbow is more down, right? So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is then we start simulating. Kind of his feel was that the head is twisting to the right, but the hips are twisting to the left. So pushing toe to heel, right hip driving. And that's the separation piece. And then in the follow through, his arms are extended, left arm's more externally rotated.
So is there one number or a couple numbers that you would attribute like the root cause or like the one thing he needs to keep in check that would solve the rest?
Not necessarily. It's like the one thing that causes a cataclysm of the domino effect would be off the ball, the left bend. So like, and that's where we start setting up the goals. So like what I can do, Ray, you go ahead and hit a couple. I'm going to set up goals on this. So for him, and I'll just bring this up. Okay. So on his motion, so if I hit the goal section up here, so we already put in a P1 goal. So if I create a new goal and I said, okay, low hanging fruit would be his bends at P2, like that's pretty important. And then also the chest bend at P2. So like getting those put in at P2, and I can adjust them if need be. But if I just put standard deviation, that kind of works. That's kind of the idea. And this I put in at P2 takeaway. Oops. Now that's in his system. And then when he runs monitor mode, like you can see, like it's pretty good. Chest bend on that last one at P2 got off a little bit, but you can see his chest side bend was good and his pelvis bend is getting better. Because before.
So in that last one, he got too side bendy at P2, just a little bit.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But overall, like this is kind of in the wheelhouse. So
oh, sorry, I was looking at that wrong. I think he was too forward bent.
Forward bend, yeah. So
yeah.
And we're trying to do that for him. Like we're trying to kind of push it. So if he can go more, that's better. So I can adjust that if need be. Because normally he doesn't get enough chest bend. His side bend starts to get more and more like the 25s. So
it's almost like he overcorrected.
Correct. Yeah. So that's kind of the metric for that. And then obviously like at the top, everything was golden because of that. For the most part, he gets more extension, which I don't mind. That's more range of motion, which gets more turn, which for him at P5 keeps him more closed at P5. So that's kind of the downstream domino effect. Now, if I bring
let me ask a question so that you talk about this. The idea of setting a goal, how do you use the goal and how does Ray use the goal?
So how I do it is to establish a practice plan so that when he goes to, let's say a tournament, it's a Monday, or let's say he finishes a round on Thursday and he's at a Corn Ferry event, he can make sure that like I always put P1 in there with even with kids, just so they know they're set up correctly. Now that might be like their shoulders might be too open, they might have too much tilt, not enough, whatever, but it gives them a baseline to kind of operate on. That's always like a very good acquisition for them. And what they're going to notice is trends. And so I start building up the whole system like P1, P2, P3, P4. And then generally speaking, downswing stuff I don't really get to because it's happening so quick that we're kind of grasping at straws. So and in Ray's case, it's like that setup and takeaway kind of set the stage. Now I'm going to say for him, we're probably going to put a P5 goal in here today. Like I know that's going to be one of the things that we're going to put in there. Hopefully that answers the question. So that's kind of how we use it. Now, like if we look at 3D reference, I think Look at all. I think I have him. Well, here's what's interesting. This was his pitch shot. This will be an interesting one. I think this is his pitch shot because it really shows up kind of in the numbers. So if we just look at like address, like right here, you can see the side bend is less, right?
Yep.
Right, pretty clearly. And then obviously like a little bit more stacked looking. And then at P2, it really shows up. So you can see the chest side bend 23, pelvis bend -2. You know, things are at P2 a lot more stacked up. That's just in a little chip. And then at lead arm parallel, right? See, that's way more on top of it. Chest sways more forward. So that's more of a representation. That's why like we just kind of go, okay, like we're seeing some trends here. And at P, sway gap's actually positive. See that?
Yeah.
So it
So
was
that
showing,
means that his chest is more forward than his pelvis at that position
correct.
with the
Yeah. And
stacked move.
you can kind of see that. So if that
Yeah.
gets into like a driver, that's a problem. So
Mhm.
which it was. So yeah. We probably should. Do you guys mind if we do drivers?
Yeah.
Okay. And if there's
I think,
any questions people have, just fire.
okay. If we could see monitor mode in action, that would be very, very cool.
Yeah, we could do that. We could do that. Let's do it with let's do the big dog. I'll let him get a couple under his belt before we just jump into it.
And Dana, I'll give you 5 more minutes.
Okay, that's
Before
fine. He's assembling his driver because he was traveling. So it's a smart traveler.
Dana, if you want to talk about some of your players and how they use this on the road, because I think one of the things that people are curious about is, you know, when you're not together, what happens?
Yeah, and it's actually funny to go a step further than that, GA, is I have some players that I don't work with that I ended up pseudo working with because they started using the program and they're like, oh, this is really cool because I see my tendencies. You know, there's like an LPGA girl that I don't work with her, but she's like, oh, you know, I'm doing this in my golf swing. So if I have reference, like what are these references? So I kind of on the back end showed her what to do. And then she's like, oh, well, this is really cool. Now I can see a trend. And so, you know, I basically have everybody, at least in my camp, do it the same way. Like I just showed with like the goals and everything. And then they can run monitor mode. Like a good example would be like Tiffany Chan, who I kind of work with, kind of don't, you know, whatever. She's got a nice golf swing, but like it was cool. And you actually got to work with her. She can use the program and then get really quick feedback on what she's working on and then take it on the golf course and see if she's still doing it. And then more importantly is like, how is she doing it when, let's say, wind's off the left and there's a bunker right? You know, like what does her geometry do when there's situational stuff pops up? You know, I think that's massive. So that being said, Ray, you've got 3 drives? Yeah. Just gonna take a driver of them.
I'm actually curious of this. I wonder how different it is.
Yeah. Well, there's a good example. So like we have a Asia Tour guy that just filmed a swing on monitor mode because it just popped in my queue. I'll put this right here, put this one here. Okay, and we're gonna do monitor, right? Okay, so do driver. Then do select a goal. We'll do the takeaway goal. Okay, ready? So you have your setup. Why did my thing go black?
It's never good.
That was weird. Okay, try that again. You go ahead and keep hitting.
I don't want to distract you, but if you can double task, how long are your sessions when you do this? And is your iPad constantly running? As in, you know, are you doing the start session and monitor mode, or do you record the swings and then import later?
I just record straight on the iPad.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's pretty smooth, pretty quick.
Do you actually run monitor mode during lessons to show players how to use, like, I think what you do exceptionally well, you do many things exceptionally well, but like I feel like all of your students learn how to use monitor mode with you so they feel like they know what they're doing when they go away on their own.
Yes, correct.
So how do you do that? Do you like set aside time, or like do you show them, or do you use it in the lesson? Therefore, they're like, hey, tell me how to do this.
Yeah, so I will show them how to do monitor mode. So
Mm.
it's pretty seamless. Like it's not difficult at all for me to do that. Hopefully my iPad's agreeing with me right now. It's like lagging. I don't know why. It's weird. I'm gonna turn off. Huh. It keeps freezing. I don't know why. My iPad.
Uh-oh.
Shut it down. Weird.
And then Sergio wanted to know, is this also trail hand dependent, i.e. strong grip?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just gonna film one because for some reason it kept crashing. I want to make sure I get it.
Okay.
I think it's my Wi-Fi here. I think I'm because we're running a TrackMan and a live thing. It's connecting. I don't know why. Okay.
You've got a lot of technologies running simultaneously. TrackMan, Sportsbox, Zoom.
Okay. All right, so let's come over here. We'll take a look at that, right?
What's that?
Really good?
Yeah, they're a little up. 4 up on it. Yeah, 100's been on a little slower. Yeah, so number did pretty good.
Okay. But not down and left.
No.
That's good.
That's interesting though with the driver on.
Probably because you back out of it.
I think I backed out pretty hard with the driver.
Okay, so what's interesting is he doesn't have as large of a sway gap with the driver as he did with his 7, which is kind of interesting. P2, pretty good, right? That's different. That actually makes me happy. So much better. P3, a little bit more left bend kicked in, just a hair. And rotation right here on the backswing could be a little bit more at P3. So I'm going to assume, just running an assumption, because that number got a little bit greater, if this gets less, that kicks up to like 75. And so with that, and then to the top, pretty darn good. Pelvis went a little more forward.
A little more forward
Towards the target, yeah. Which is okay, but not deal. And then yeah, a little more forward with everything because you were forward.
But then
Um,
you'll get the attack.
I think you do, yeah. Yeah, left leg's a little late. Not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little aggressive on the sway gap because of that. So I think like for him, if we're gonna go into training this, like getting everything a little bit more right, just like fractionally more right, maybe even through the pelvis as you're twisting more level, and then break here, and then push the hip back, and drive the right hip.
Just training that separation.
Yeah.
we've got some questions here. I think people want to know about the trail hand question a little bit more. How are the tilts and turns affected by the grip?
Yeah. So if the player has, let's say, a stronger attachment, okay, that's going to change the release characteristics. So I'd say like players like that are stronger, like Jake Knapp and those players, obviously going to have more radial right through the system. And then when they come down, it's working more this way through the golf ball. For Ray, it actually, like, he's weakened his trail hands more this way, so it's moved more in this direction to allow him to get more this way through the golf ball. So it's still releasing, right? We still want that to release, but not in this fashion where he was. So like his left arm would start to bend and go this way to get through the golf ball. It's getting a little bit more that way through the golf ball. So the left wrist still seeks extension, but not so much from the elbow bending. That was kind of what was fending him before. So it's only weakened like 10 degrees, the right hand?
Yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Then during an hour lesson, if someone's having trouble getting the setup piece right, do you stay on that until it's better, or do you move on to the next step and just set up goals for them to practice their setup later?
Yeah, so if we have an hour, it's kind of like going to the doctor, getting an MRI and saying, look, like you have to start, let's say, getting more tilt in there, okay, or less tilt, like whatever the prescription is. So get those things put in, and then once those things are kind of put into the system, they might start to go away, and then they have to run practice sessions kind of in a sequential order where, okay, start monitor mode at P1, get that good, and then P2, get that good 3, 4, 5, 6, like whatever it is. But just don't start going to the driving range and go, okay, well, I need my shaft to be shallower, and they're not in a position to do it. You know, that's essentially how I do it. Just so it's always a domino effect.
Yeah.
You know?
Actually have a question. It's so hard when you're making a swing change to not care about ball flight,
Yeah.
right? Like, because you're gonna hit some funny, like you're not gonna make as good a contact when you're making a swing change. How do you keep them on it?
Yell. No, I don't yell. No, I'm just pretty hardcore on it. Like you're here to change something in your golf swing to eventually affect ball flight. And like, look, if something's happening in the transition that we don't like, but it's being affected with something that's happening earlier, the goal is to affect that earlier thing. And if you get that handled, the top starts to look better. So let's just say that I had a player the other day who played on, let's say, the mini tours, and he worked for a year on trying to get his backswing knocked across the line. Like, but it never affected the outcome of him hitting the ball better. So I said, you need to pump the brakes on that, work on hitting the ball better. You know, so it wasn't so much, yeah, it was a little bit of his setup, but then also like educate yourself on impact. So get the impact better so you actually can play. And then that setup and that worry about the top actually started to get better because the setup was getting better. So it was kind of a double-edged sword. So we have to, as teachers, kind of put two hats on and go, okay, yeah, we want the player to hit it better. Why are you not doing that? So he or she can elect, like, okay, I have understanding why I'm not maybe getting an impact right, you know, depending on your release type. If you're this player or you this player or whatever, what's best suited for them. And then over the long haul, put all the, and it doesn't mean I'm right, but put the adjacent pieces in the address, take away halfway back to the top. So eventually they do start to get the vanity or look appropriate.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I wanted to move on to the Bryson case study and some of the other things. Any parting words from Ray and you, Dana? I mean, Dana,
Ray,
would love for you to comment on the Bryson stuff too,
Parting
obviously.
words?
Yeah, parting words.
No, but thank you for the system. The system's a great tool that me and Dana have used quite a bit, and gives us a lot of good references, and Dana's very good at it. So yeah, find yourself an instructor that knows a lot about Sportsbox and 3D and mechanics, or learn about it. I think this is a great system to use. So
I just put money in his pocket.
yeah, I'm hoping for a free membership at some point being sent my way. But thank you.
All right, that was awesome. Yeah, and then just on my end, yeah, I think the big thing, which I know GA can allude to this, is confirmation of knowing that you're doing the right thing. And then in the Bryson effect was huge because it allowed him to free up his golf game, knowing that things are in the right position more times than not. And seeing it actually on the golf course was huge. So I'll let you explain that, GA, but yeah, it's a major factor in a lot of these players playing better.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right, let me switch gears a little bit here. I'm sorry I didn't get around to all of the questions, but
if people post in the YouTube thing, I can answer the questions in the YouTube thing too. So if you guys like, when you post it on YouTube, that's so easy.
All right.
Cool.
Hope everybody heard that. Yes.
All right.
Okay. So I'll go through this really quickly because we've got 15 minutes now, and I'm not paying attention.
You want me to sign off on that?
No.
Okay.
I'm sure people would want to ask questions with you, Dana, if that's okay for 15
Yeah.
more minutes.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. And Nate, if you can monitor the questions, that'd be awesome. So last year, so 2 weeks before the US Open, Dana called us, and by that time, Dana had been a Sportsbox ambassador, using Sportsbox extensively for a year and a half, 2 years already. And he wanted to work with him and Bryson in figuring out two things. 2 weeks before last year's US Open, Bryson was trying to figure out his driver. And he was struggling a little bit with the occasional fades. He obviously is known to be a draw player and wants to hit draws all day off the tee. And when he would hit it straight or fade it, that's when he would take issue with, like, he wanted to really solve that instead of just chalking it up to, oh, like that was just a bad swing. He wasn't happy with that answer, right? And so really, what is it in my swing that happens when I hit the fades? And then I don't know if you guys remember, but he shot 58 at Greenbrier at the Live Greenbrier event a couple years ago. And that was the freest he had ever swung it. And he wanted to get our help in creating an exact database of what is different in his swing now versus when he played at Greenbrier. So we did a deep dive on him and his swing. following the US Open. Oh.
Yep.
I mean, before the US Open. So went down to Dallas, went down to work with him in the Live Houston event the week before the US Open, collected a lot of his swings with the Foresight GC Quad, and put all of it together with driver swings, iron swings, everything. And so we had the data set of what his swing did, what did the ball did, all of that in one place, which gave Nate and his team the ability to go and do some very cool analysis on the data on what is correlated with the right miss. So we were able to put all of this together in a graphical format in a kind of a large spreadsheet. We knew exactly what data points in Sportsbox were highest correlated with the spin axis outcome. And for him, anything, if you look at this little corner, the plot here, anything shaded in red, so spin axis going up and down, anything positive, so above 0 was a bad shot for him. And you could see that there's like a clear correlation to this chest bend at address number. And so we knew that anything more bent forward than 38 at address were highly correlated with a spin axis going right. But this is like a little sample of all of the different things that we measure that were correlated in negative or positive way with the spin axis. And we worked with Dana. Dana identified the things that would have the greatest impact. So anything that happens after, P4, P5, let's throw that out. We're not going to try to work on those things. But there were things in the address all the way to the top in transition that were really, really highly correlated. So we put those things together. One of them was actually how bent forward he was at address. Another thing was sway gap at P4. You could see here that when he gets too stacked, so when his sway gap got too close to 0 is when he would start pushing and fading it. His sweet spot really is in this like 2.5, like a negative 2.5 was like his sweet spot to operate from his driver. And then last thing was the P4 pelvis sway number. And again, when he got too far forward at the top was when he would get into trouble with his driver. And so we would then, like with this information, Dana and Bryson worked on some inputs that would get him into those ideal ranges with his pelvis sway at top, sway gap at top, and his chest bend at address. And we just kept working on it with monitor mode on, giving him that data feedback every time he swung the club. And by Wednesday, he felt really, really free to swing as hard as he wanted, knowing that it wouldn't go right. And so what's happened since then is we've been part of his process during the off season, and then at every major, we've been capturing his swings and comparing those swings to his what we call his gold set, because now we know exactly what swing data points or like what ranges with every single data point produce the best shots for Bryson. So he has this, not the tour range, but Bryson range that we compare him against. And that Bryson gold set was developed over kind of these different data collection days where we knew how he hit it and what he felt. And we were able to, we're immediately able to, like the week before, he was really kind of not feeling great at a live event. He was sending us videos, and immediately within a couple hours, Nate was able to show him, yeah, this is what's different versus your best swings, your gold set. So we're able to kind of use data-driven solutioning for keeping Bryson dialed in and never kind of like doing the guess or the kind of the searching process that a lot of tour players have to go through when something feels a little off. When Bryson feels off, we're able to go look at the data. And it makes Dana's job easier because he can point to the data and say, like, I'm not making this up. Right, Dana? I mean, if you can comment on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think, and this is kind of part and parcel to all my players, is that, everybody has particular tendencies, and they're also golfers. So when they hit a bad shot, they have a feel response. And in Bryson's case, his left arm kind of comes out, he pulls down on the handle, and he starts, having shots with the short arc clubs where they might start too straight and go left. And then with the longer clubs, they start to kind of push fade. And so regardless of whatever the thing is, it's like having like a good track record or confirmation, and then really quick solutions to the matter where it's like, look, like you hit a golf ball, we film it on the golf course, you're at the US Open, the start line is good, but it fades to the right. Well, here's your top 3. We already have the data set, pull up the numbers, and it shows, oh, you're 2 on top of it at P4. You're going to hit it to the right. Like just instantaneously, like we get that handled. So, and that's the same with all players. So like if it's Jake, his hips are too far right at the top, he's going to have his outcome. So, and like with Ray here, similarly, like if he's too much in left bend, he's not going to be able to separate and keep his upper hub back. Like that's probably like the low hanging fruit. So as long as you keep that under kind of the umbrella overall it starts to get better and better and better. And then the player can play a little bit more free and, have better target acquisition.
Yeah. So, and since, this process, I mean, a year ago, this process would take a lot longer. Now, Nate can do this, depending on how many swings we're looking at, within a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And what's happened is we've now been contacted by, I'm not going to name names here, but 3 of the top 10 players in the world.
Yeah.
And they all were asking for the exact same thing. They said, I was playing really well in 2020, 2021, or whatever the year was when they were winning all the majors and, world, whatever, like they have a swing they want to go back to. And currently they don't feel like they have a command of their swing where its swing feels different. They can't tell what it is. Their coach can't really identify precisely what it is that's different, but their swing feels different. They're hitting different shots. And the number one thing they come to us for is, what is different in my swing now versus when I was swinging it well in their eyes. And again, caveat all this, they're all top 10 players in the world, so they're doing something right. But they still have this like ideal swing that they want to go back to. And for some of them, they do have good quality swing videos. Some of them, they don't have any slow-mo, or their swing videos are kind of shaky. And so makes it a little more challenging. So we keep thinking to ourselves, man, the players that are up and coming now, or even the players who are playing really, really well now, if they could work with us, create that gold set now when they're playing their best golf, or keep a log of it on Sportsbox, then we can do this analysis so quickly. We can give them the straightforward answer. It's so crystal clear what is different if we have the quality of data, which is why we came up with our tour program. And so again, I'll go through this and post this on YouTube, so I'm not going to go through this exactly, but word for word. But we want to understand the context with the player and the coach. We want to define the problem crystal clear. What is the outcome that you're trying to change? What are what is the ideal outcome that you want to get to? Ask them all these questions to get to what is the problem that you're trying to solve here. Then we do the data collection, ideally with them on the golf course and on the range, because sometimes they have different swings on the golf course or on the range. We always want to get the TrackMan or Foresight data for the outcome, and then we can do the consultation. What we don't do is we do not go beyond the providing the data. We do not advise the player directly on what to do with their swing. That's not our job. That is entirely on the coach and the player to solve from there on, but we give the information. And so we've come up with a tour program that has this initial consultation. If it's just going to take a couple of hours of data analysis, like for example, with a player sending the videos from previous years and asking what's different, we can do a quick analysis on that. And then if they want to go further, or they want to do like the correlation analysis like we did with Bryson, we dedicate an entire day to the data collection. We fly to you within the continental US and do the analysis and consultation all in the day. And we also offer a retainer service if you want to keep a log of your swings and want to be able to have Nate and Phil for a consultation. We could do that. And we also will be offering live tournament concierge service for on-site support. And then next, I'm kind of racing through this, but a lot of coaches working with advanced players have been asking for this. Currently in our 3D player subscription plan, it's limited what the data points are that you're able to access. And that's by design, because we want 3D player users to be directed by the coach. We don't want them to go searching for all this data on their own and getting lost in it. So the coach would assign a goal. If it's not part of like the 3D player package, assign a goal, allow them to work on that data point. We have heard enough from all of you guys that the players themselves would like to access all the data, especially the sway gap data. And so we are making available this 3D Player Plus subscription plan in beta. It's not going to be out publicly. You can't upgrade it yourself. But if you do email us at support@sportsbox.ai, we can manually upgrade for you or your player. And this will be the pricing for the Plus program. And as you can see here on the far right, we are offering a tour rate for qualifying tour players, junior golfers, competitive players. So just reach out to us if you're interested in this part of our product. So that's the that was the kind of housekeeping stuff I wanted to get through. We've got 2 more minutes. If anybody had any questions on this stuff, or again, you guys can use YouTube once we post this to ask questions, and we can answer them on that as well. Dana, any last words of wisdom for our webinar attendees?
Well, wisdom's a strong word, but you know, I think the big thing is like dive into using the app. You know, everybody is going to use it differently. They're going to communicate differently. I think that's the big thing with coaching is that there is a communication piece to the technology. And the technology is very user friendly if you use it on a daily basis. You know, I think it really helps the student understand like what they're doing wrong and helps your communication be more effective. Like that's the number one thing. We don't have to make up terminology, and you know, I think sequentially in the industry, it's becoming more and more prevalent that way in a good way instead of, you know, somebody trying to, like myself, trying to be smart about something. It's like that's not the goal. The goal is that the player leaves with the ability to hit the ball better. So that'd be my closing statement.
Awesome. All right. Well, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Dana, for showing us how you use this in a lesson. I think that was a Sportsbox webinar first, so I appreciate you going through that.
Yeah, no worries. Absolutely.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining, and we'll see you soon on the next webinar.
Cool.